called me Dr. Jones, known as the Night Tripper. Got my satchel of grease in my hand. They were tripping up and back down the bayou. I'm the last of the best, they call me the greasy man. Got many clients, come from miles around, running down my prescription. I got medicine to cure all y'all's ills. I got remedies of every description.
Who did you say this was? Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Oh,
this is a snake oil salesman. Dr. John.
Welcome back to Tuesday edition of the Earl Ingram Show, Tuesdays with Sandy Williams. And Sandy, what is the music today?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. We've you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. So, Sandy, you wanted to talk a little bit about the state of Wisconsin, and let's talk a little bit about the thought.
Well, I was thinking about this. I'm in a position, having retired, with a satisfactory pension, et cetera. I could have moved any place. I could be a snow bunny. I could go to Florida. I have no inclination whatsoever. I love the state. I love the seasons. I love the fact that my family's here, the roots, the whole connectivity of the place, the beauty of the driftless area in the west and the north. It looks like Finland and Door County. And I just think it's a spectacular state that is kind of a hidden gem. I think Milwaukee's moved in the right direction in terms. So my perspective is that I have no desire whatsoever. If I had all the money in the world, if I win the lottery, I'm not moving from Wisconsin. And I wonder how many of us feel that way. I think more people feel that way than not, but I suspect there are people with a different vantage point.
844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. I, on the other hand, a lifelong resident of the state of Wisconsin. And many friends and relatives have left Wisconsin and of mine, and they say they can no longer take living in an area that is either the first or the second most segregated in the entire nation, where people of color only make up 5% of the overall population, and don't see a whole lot of changes over, my 70-year lifespan. Things have changed, but the segregation of the state of Wisconsin has not changed and probably never will. And so it does depend on who you are. 844-967-2789. I don't know. People tell me about the South. I haven't spent a lot of time in the South. But from what people of color tell me who moved back to the South, they feel more comfortable in that environment than they did in the state of Wisconsin.
Well, you bring up a really good point, because obviously we all look at things from our own vantage point. From my vantage point, I haven't experienced that, except I have watched that. Okay, and it is a sorry thing. In my youth, Milwaukee was a different place than it is today. The segregation really occurred starting in the 50s, and it being such a distinct thing. And then with the growth of the African American population during the 60s and 70s, as industry recruited people from the South to come up in the North and work in their factories, we ended up with a substantial growth in that population. And the promise of prosperity was like 2 generations long for those people who were uprooted and moved here with a promise. And the promise was broken when all the jobs were lost. And the situation now is stark. And it is interesting. You're right that Milwaukee is, I think, first or second in terms of segregation, and it has to do with the societal situation. I mean, there's beautiful housing stock available in what are considered African American neighborhoods, and there are no non-African Americans lining up to buy those houses, and they're probably at lower prices than they would be in other places in the community. And it's a sad commentary. And I think Wisconsin long prided itself on being the most progressive state. It was one of the key northern states in the abolition movement. We've always had a progressive outlook until recently. And I would hope that we could at least move back to a progressivity that would try to help solve this social ill we have of segregation, because it's a sad thing.
You know, Sandy, so you think of comparable states, Minnesota, Michigan, and they're even more integrated than Wisconsin, and these are comparable states.
Yeah,
right?
I think Memphis is the other city that's so segregated.
Yeah, but Memphis is in the South.
It's in the South, but I mean,
Right.
yeah, there's no other northern city that reaches the list of being quite as segregated as we are.
And so I don't know, and that's, to me, that's not a great badge for the state to have. And with all the other great things about it, that's one that I don't know how we get beyond. Certainly, it's something that is not going. People from the north, from the south, and the west, and the east of color aren't going to be coming to Wisconsin because it's the most friendly state for people of color. So the only way to expand any of it is through those born in the state, people of color like myself, who have decided that we're going to stay here. This is home, and I'm not going anywhere. I could, if I got $1 million tomorrow, I wouldn't go anywhere else at this juncture in my life. My battle is to fight to try to change the things that need to be changed. There are others who've left who continue to leave, people of color. But I live in the city that I love and people that I love. And so I think we have a responsibility to fight to try to change the things that we need to change. And that's the way it's always been historically, right? People before you fight to make things right. Now, are there things about Wisconsin that I love? Oh, man. I don't know the last time, we had hurricanes or the last times we had desert storms, or the last time, the weather.
Yeah, we don't have biblical flooding.
Right.
We have tornadoes occasionally. We're not Oklahoma or Kansas. We have
or Texas.
Occasional tornadoes and occasional hailstorms, and that's about it. No, I mean we have a lot to be thankful about. I think what we need to do is get back to societally trying to make sure that Wisconsin is the very best place to live for everybody who lives in it, because it's a great place. It's a great environment. The city of Milwaukee has all kinds of potential. All the cities around the state do, but I think we have to stop being afraid of one another and start embracing one another.
When people of color, when black people only make up 5% of the population, it's hard to get around to the other majority of people and say, hey, how you doing? I'm Earl, a black guy. So it's kind of incumbent upon people who are in the majority, who have, beliefs about people of color that they just hear about and then are afraid to kind of have connection with. When there are so many people who come into Milwaukee, Sandy, for entertainment. People don't think about how bad Milwaukee is when Summerfest is going on. Right?
Yeah.
People don't think about how bad Milwaukee is when the symphony is going on. or when the Bucks are playing. So it's perception more than anything else, and we got to struggle to get past.
And also the whole crime thing. I mean, yes, the crime rate is higher in some parts of Milwaukee, but actually crime is going down. I mean, one of the things that's being talked about nationally is how the country's going to hell, right? We're crime, and we've got the insane asylums of the world and prisons of the world being emptied into the United States
Just
through immigration. None of those things are true, and the crime rate is one of those things that isn't true. Yes, we have crime issues. In particular, we have the issue associated with stolen cars and young people, but violent crime is going down, okay? It's being handled rather effectively. It's going down at a material level nationally and in Milwaukee.
And the crime is based on somebody knowing somebody else.
Yeah, crimes are not...
It's not random.
Right. People are not venturing out to commit crimes in the main. I think the only time that seems to be happening is this whole stolen car phenomena. But the rest of the crime that tends to be happening is interpersonal.
Yes, it's interpersonal. And so when people don't know that and they're led to believe that it's something completely different, it doesn't help with trying to heal the wounds that exist. And so having a conversation, as you and I always have, conversations that most people aren't willing to have. It's why I love having you on and love us doing what we do, because most people aren't willing to have these real conversations that I think are the beginning of changing the perceptions that people have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Milwaukee needs, and I think those who live in the suburbs should continue to give to United Way, but they ought to do a lot more than giving at the office. What we need to do is start rolling up our sleeves and working with one another. And I think we can change this. You despair of the notion that we can change it. I don't. I think we can.
All right, 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you. All right, welcome back to a Tuesday edition of the Earl Ingham Show. That means Tuesday with Sandy Williams. And Sandy, I didn't see your green, blue, and purple beads. Where are they?
Show me. Gold. Yeah. I want you to know that our law firm once went to New Orleans and in the French Quarter walked around and we witnessed what goes on in the French Quarter and how beads get collected. And it's not something that should be happening in Milwaukee. Let's put it that way.
Well, you know, I saw that, and they collect them and they redistribute them.
Yes, they reward people with them in an unseemly sort of a way.
Yeah, throwing things and 844-967-2789 is Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams and you. Let's go to the phone lines and Gary from Sussex. Good morning to you, Gary. You say what?
Hey, guys. Last week, Sandy said something, and I didn't get a chance to say anything about it because my time was up. But when you guys were mentioning about the protests at these colleges with, with all these students and these infiltrators and stuff like that, Sandy said something like the fact that, we don't wear, a shirt that says Democrats or Republicans. It doesn't really say who we are. I'm sure, whatever. But I don't think that there was one Republican in the United States that was at any of those protests. Sandy, so explain what you meant.
Well, I didn't say that. I even listened to read the transcript and listen to the show, and I never said anything like that, Gary. But I can assure you that in the protests there probably was a mix. There were pro-Israeli protests as well, and I would hope that young people would feel free to express themselves. It could be. I think I asked the question of what was leftist about the protests. They were. I think I did say that I was surprised that without any research, someone just described the Palestinian protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters, as leftists. Okay, but I don't know. I mean, I think that there are plenty of pro-Palestinians who are angry with Joe Biden who might be Republicans.
Well, the thing is, I'm not saying Democrats were there as far as the normal Democrats. It was the extreme left wing of the Democrats that were there calling for.
So Gary, let me, when you call and say the extreme left wing of the Democrats, then isn't there an extreme right wing of the Republicans, Gary?
Of course.
Okay. All right. So let's stop.
Well, and I'm not sure about extreme left wing. I mean, we have.
And what is that?
We have a caller, Malik, who called in, who was, I think, Palestinian from Kenosha, and his politics, I would hardly believe, were left wing or extreme left wing at all. He's a small business owner, and I don't think so. I think he happened to have an issue in particular associated with his status as a Palestinian and his knowledge of what's going on in Palestine that was driving him. So I just think when we try to categorize people by their conduct as describing them as extreme leftists or extreme rightists, we better at least have a knowledge about what it is, who they are, and what it is they're espousing, and why that would be left-wing or right-wing.
I'd also say that the 3 days that I visited the UWM campus and talked with the students who were there protesting from all different backgrounds, they weren't all Palestinians, and so they didn't appear to be extreme left-wing, nuts. They were all people who were balanced, who disagreed with something that was going on, and which they had a right to do. So, it's easy to point the finger and say they're all far left, but, people don't want people, as Sandy said, to be talking about the far right people who talk about burning books and, and doing and woke and what did they used to call Joe Biden? I forgot that name that they called him, Brandon. So anyway, Gary.
I think I'm now remembering, Gary, what it is you're probably reacting to, which is my view is that we've got to get rid of labels so that we can have dialogue that doesn't start out with labeling someone as being an other. If you start out with a label like you're a far leftist that I'm talking to, you've kind of created an environment in which conversation becomes much more difficult. So I guess that was why I raised the subject last week when I talked about how I was surprised at a labeling of the protesters as far left.
Hey, Gary, let me ask you, what is a far leftist?
Anybody who wants to tear up the Constitution and start all over again. That's my opinion.
Well, actually, the people who've talked about amending the Constitution come from the right more than the left right now. So that would be, amending the Constitution is as close as you can get to tearing it up and starting over again. But I have a problem with all of this talk about the Constitution because I'm interested in which part of the Constitution you're referring to right now that you think they're tearing up. Is it the freedom of speech part?
I have no idea what they're talking about, but I hear them say, We want to tear up the Constitution and start all over again.
Oh, I've not. Who said? Who has said that? I mean, did anyone say? Did any of the protesters say that? And who is it that has said that?
I think Calvin had something he wanted to add. So let's bring a young man in. Calvin.
Well, we're talking about people saying they want to tear up the Constitution. Donald Trump, the nominee for the Republican Party for president, has said he wants to suspend the Constitution when he reaches office. And you'll probably say that that's just a joke or he's not serious, but he said it.
Yeah, well, he also said drink what is it? Bleach to get rid of COVID. Which
Lysol, have a Lysol Manhattan.
Yeah.
So
I'm not talking about you guys as extreme left because you're not. We're
not talking about us. We're not talking about us, Gary.
But I'm talking about the extreme people that want to make this country into a socialist country, that the government takes care of everybody. And you guys know that I'm a capitalist. And you know, I just believe you work hard, you deserve more.
Well, but Gary, you're a capitalist, but so are you against Medicare?
No, of course not.
No, Medicare. Well, Medicare is a social program. I mean, it's a socialized insurance program. I mean, we don't have pure capitalism in the United States. None of us are pure capitalists, and so the question is, what blend are we looking for?
So, Sandy, I want Gary to hang on. We're going to let Gene from Eau Claire respond to Gary. Gary, are you willing to hear from Gene?
Absolutely.
All right, 844-967-2789. Hang on. All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. It's Tuesday. That means Tuesdays with my co-host Sandy Williams, and we still have Gary on the line. So Gary, I just kind of want to give you some responses from some texters. We've got Tony. Seems like we're divided much more along age lines than partisan ones. Brendan talks about Trump. Project 2025, placing religious zealots in charge of our government. We pay into Social Security, so it's not an entitlement. PJ, love how they are making Gary eat his words. PJ, Gary doesn't want the government taking care of everyone. I'm sure Gary has limited time left before he's going to wind up on Medicare. Tony, there are no doubt people who have said, let's tear up the Constitution and start over. I think the problem here is that Gary is attributing too much authority to them. They are outliers, not a consensus. Jean is back. So, Gary, we're going to let Jean respond to you, and let's see what she has to say. Jean, you want to respond to Gary's thoughts?
Yeah. Gary, there's that old saying, and Gary, I'm not saying this to be mean because I think you're a really nice guy, got a lot of things going for you. I'm a lot older than you, and I want to say that the saying is, if they're spewing it, they're doing it. Now, you need to start investigating the information that you're hearing, because the only ones that I've ever had that want to have a constitutional Congress are the Republicans. They want to change the Constitution. And the sad thing about it is, if you have females in your home, you better really wake up, because this is against a lot of females in our country. We work very hard so that women could have their own accounts and checking accounts and have their names on deeds and things. And also, I hear, and I've heard for years, propagated through right-wing radio, because that's all I used to get, and I was just like you on the phone, fighting back all by myself. But the thing of it is that when Scotty Walker took over our state and took over our institutions that protected people, that broke up our workforce development, our Board of Elections, our ethics committees, and all those things that Trump has already infected, but thank God we have a new president. Things were really scary, and they still are. You know, we all voted for our governor in the state of Wisconsin, our attorney general, our justice system, and all of a sudden they say that, they can't do the job that they used to do. And it's really frustrating to me, Gary. You really need to look this stuff up. I'm hoping you will, because you sound intelligent. Don't be brainwashed. I've been independent my entire life, and I saw good things about both sides. But since Walker was in, and he was twirling around in Trump's chair, and I watched live, I couldn't believe myself. When I watched Trump live at the United Nations and shoving people around, you know, when all of the heads of their countries were together, push the women out of the way, treat women really, really bad. Gary, you need to watch live, and you need to know what's going on.
All right, Gene, thank you very much for the call. Gary, I'll give you a quick chance to respond.
Well, first of all, I'm older than Gene from Eau Claire.
Well, we don't know, and it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Okay, and I do have women in my house. Now we're empty nesters, but I have a daughter that grew up in my house until she was like 23, and I have a wife. So she probably thinks I'm a single, lonely, old-time Republican living all by myself in a cave, but I'm not. I do watch CNN. I listen to MSNBC. So I hear both sides. The only problem that I wish, and I know that you, Earl, watch Fox because you get to see both sides, and I know Sandy does too because he comes up with some good stuff. But I really highly encourage your listeners to listen to two sides and then make up their own mind. And that's what I do. I use my own brain. And as far as one thing that I heard Jeannie say one time when she's talking to Todd Alba about 2 weeks ago, and I have a very nice name for her, you know, and I really like it. But every time I hear Jean, I call her Pepper Spray Jean, because she said when she goes to the elections that she's going to bring her pepper spray with her. And then Todd Alba, he called her out on it, and then she said, "Oh, I'm just kidding," but you know, and she's nice. I like her. I listen to her all the time. But
Gary, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, I guess we get beyond the point of what this is really about, and that's the fact that, you know, these decisions that are being made, are people really, you know, in tune to the impact of what they are being told, and are they weighing those things and making decisions themselves based on what, as opposed to reading about these things?
My fear is that people have decided that it's important to self-label themselves and then to adhere to a bunch of beliefs that are consistent with the label they've adopted. So if I'm a conservative, then I'm going to look for people to tell me what it is that I need to believe and think to be a conservative, and the same is true on the liberal side. And I agree with Gary that's not the path we want to take. I think the path we want to take is everyone needs to be independently evaluating things. But I think we also ought to attribute that independence to others, so we ought to stop labeling others based on an expressed view. If someone expresses a view about one subject, it doesn't mean that they have a consistent thread of views on all other subjects, such that you could label them as a leftist or a far leftist or a right-winger. I think what we ought to do is talk to each other issue by issue, matter by matter, and figure out where we agree and where we disagree, and how we could reach agreement, and not label ourselves as having some denomination like a religion. Religions are usually places where we do have to look in a book to find out what we're supposed to believe, because religions are filled with belief. Politics should not be about beliefs. It should be about qualified opinions. We should be reaching opinions and conclusions based on facts and evaluation, and we should have open minds, because politics isn't liturgical. It's not a matter of faith. Politics is a matter of thought.
Oh, but Sandy, it's too late, I think, to get people to turn around for this election. I just think that people have dug in, and this election, whichever way it turns out, is going to be one of those things based again on he's too far to the left, you're too far to the right. If you ask people to define what that is.
Well, I think that the people who are clearly self-defined probably constitute 35% on each end of the spectrum, which leaves 30% of the people who are independent at some level and are willing to think about the issues and to swing one direction or the other. It's why the polls vary from time to time. And it's why our elections in a 4-year cycle tend to swing from place to place, because we do have a number of people in a center of thought, at least, who are open-minded about how they're going to vote. I wish that number was far larger, but it isn't. So we end up with a very small number of people, a relatively small number of people, making this important decision for us, and leaving the 35% who are cemented into a position of either being elated or deflated by the result, which is, again, a problem we've developed in our society, which didn't used to exist, because we used to be able to get along with the president of the other persuasion, and it was okay. It wasn't a tragedy. The world wasn't going to hell. In today's world, the language coming out of the candidates is, the world's going to hell if it isn't me. Okay. And, we've got Donald Trump trying to persuade the public that the world's insane asylums and penal colonies are being emptied into the United States, that crime is on the rise. It's not on the rise. It's going down. In fact, we aren't receiving the people out of the penal colonies and insane asylums of the world, and the populations of those are not going down in the rest of the world because they're all being shipped to the U.S. Our economy is not collapsing. In fact, it's vibrant, okay? But we've got people saying things, doomsday things on both sides of the aisle that that create an environment for more than just disappointment when the ultimate election decision is made.
All right, let's go to Don from Milwaukee. Good morning to you, Don. Thank you for the call. You say what?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. The only people I ever hear about wanting to change the Constitution are these MAGA people. In fact, in Louisiana, there's got a new governor there in Louisiana. This governor is probably a MAGA. He wants to get rid of the state constitution completely, and he wants to outlaw women to vote there. So I don't know. I think it's a bad idea to start going down that road, because that's where all your rights are in the Constitution. In fact, I heard that sex creep Trump, he was saying that he wanted to sidestep the Constitution. Well, isn't that where freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of fair trial, isn't that where that's all in there?
Well, Don, people can say, and thank you very much for the call, Sandy, that's at the root of what you're talking about. People can say whatever they want to say. Donald Trump can't unilaterally change the Constitution, nor can the Democrats.
Well, changing the Constitution ends up being quite difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, we've done it a limited number of times, and
But one person can't unilaterally do that on his own.
No, of course not. It takes a majority of the states independently, as well as Congress twice, and it's a complicated process. But the problem, really, as I said, it relates much more to the social discourse and what the social discourse is doing to us, and how that then plays out politically, and what the political process is doing to our social discourse, because it could be chicken and egg. Quite frankly, I think it's clearer than that. I think that our political processes have decided through the social media that they now have access to have a substantial impact on our social discourse in a manner that has a great deal of impact on our political activity. And that impact has been extremely disruptive. We accuse other countries of interceding into our country to destabilize us socially, but I think that our political processes and how they're being deployed into our society and the way our society is reacting is, in fact, the destabilization we talk about other people trying to accomplish.
You know, Sandy, the reason that I wanted Gene to have a conversation with Gary is to pinpoint exactly what you and I are talking about. Two different, both Americans, both nice people, but as far away from being able to have a real conversation with one another as the North Pole is from the South. These are not hard-line people. These are average, everyday Americans who can't see the thing through
Well,
the
I
same.
think it's because we failed to talk about a specific subject, and we only talk about generalities, political ideologies rather than specific subjects. If they talked about a particular subject, they probably could get much closer to a conversation.
All right, 844-967-2789. Hang on the phone lines. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show. All right, welcome back to what is the last few minutes of what I think, Sandy, is a great conversation, an in-depth conversation that needs to be had more about where we are in this nation. 844-967-2789. Let's go right back to the phone lines quickly. Let's go to Bob from Waukesha. Good morning to you, Bob. Your thoughts?
Good morning, Earl. Good morning, Sandy. They showed a news flash yesterday afternoon of a rally Trump was giving. And his latest proposal is to cut off all federal funding to public schools that have vaccine mandates. Now, all our public schools have vaccine mandates for measles, mumps. And I remember when I grew up, and I was about 7, 8, 9 years old, I was afraid of getting polio. Everybody was afraid of polio until they came up with a vaccine. What Trump is talking about is dragging this country back to the wild frontier when they had diseases like measles and mumps and other diseases that we've solved with vaccines. And he wants to take us back to that. That man is crazy.
Hey, Bob, I wish you had more time. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Mary from Wauwatosa. Good morning to you, Mary. You say what?
Good morning. Couple of things. Yeah, back in 1952, 21,000 people, affected by polio. So my subject this morning is I brought up before the national organization Braver Angels being intent on bringing the two sides together to find common ground. And in listening to the two sides continually sparring, to my knowledge, this seems like a viable solution. So my question to you both is your familiarity with this organization and your opinion, positive or negative. If it has merit, I'd encourage people to sincerely take a look at Braver Angels online. Thanks.
Hey,
guys.
Mary, I'll reach out to them, okay? I'll reach out to them. Sandy, you want to respond? All right, let's go to Tom from Richland County. Good morning to you, Tom. Thank you for the call. You say what?
Hey, great hearing your voice. You have a wonderful radio voice.
Thank
I just
you.
want to mention that from being in the far left, there are no Democrats that are far left, for all these people who say there are. The Democrats keep finding a corporate solution to things, and there's all kinds of things we can do that are people working together cooperatively that aren't what the Democrats are going for at all. But racism is really the biggest problem we got in America. It's the original sin, and I feel sorry for anyone who has to suffer the wrong side of that, growing up white and everything. But I'm real proud of your show, and I really appreciate you bringing up all these topics.
Listen, man, thank you very much, Tom, and let others in Richland County know about us. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Bill from Oconomowoc. Good morning to you, Bill. You say what?
Well, first of all, I'm mad at you and Sandy. I run to the mailbox every day looking for Earl the Pearl and the Sandman leaning against a Riviera. I'm waiting for that picture.
Hey.
I'm just waiting for that picture, and it never comes, Earl. Sandy,
Listen, we got to find a 73 Riviera. I think Sandy gave me a picture of about a
79.
Yeah,
I thought I had the car, but it was a 79.
Yeah, 73. But go ahead, Bill.
But here's what I want to tell you guys today. Take your right hand and go on your left shoulder and pat yourself on the back. I can't. I'm not there. You guys are doing something that the country needs. Bringing people together to discuss the issues without the swearing, the hollering, the talking over. Just discuss them, because you will prevail. You guys will prevail. I hope you believe in yourselves, because you will prevail. That's what America's after. You know, we hear all these crazy polls. Oh, Trump is, just destroying Biden. And there were 10 million at Trump's rally when, in fact, there weren't even near that. The point is, you guys deal in reality and truth. The rest part of the world doesn't, or part of our country, and people understand that. So just keep doing what you're doing. Pat yourself on the back or reach over and pat each other. You need to hear it. You need to understand. You take it to a high level. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, thank you very much. Sandy and I are going to be moving around the state in the coming weeks and months doing this at many of the civic media radio stations. And, Sandy, it's we do handle some subjects that, can be highbrow at times, but we don't mean to be. They're subjects that we need to be having, right? I mean, conversations we need to be having.
Well, I think so. And I think the more that we can talk about actual subjects and the less we can talk about one another or trying to categorize one another or what's wrong with somebody rather than what's wrong with their thoughts. I mean, I think what we should be talking about is issues and not people. And I think one of the unfortunate qualities of cult politics is that it's all about a person and it's not about issues. So we've got, for instance, Trumpism. Okay, Trumpism is all about a person, a Trumper, but it's not about a bunch of subjects, a bunch of policy issues. And what we need in this country is a discussion about what the country needs to be doing.
Yeah, and so we attempt to do that every Tuesday and every Friday, and we're flattered that Sandy and I've been doing this a while now, and none of this is staged, none of this is pre-staged,
or even rehearsed.
No, it's not. But Sandy, what you do is you make people think, and you make me think, and I hope in turn we make others think. That's how you bring about change, right? I mean,
sure.
It's got to be through thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the question I asked of one of the callers who talked about tearing up the Constitution was, okay, which part of the Constitution? If we can ask one another specific questions, not assert something contrary to what they're saying, but ask somebody a question about why they're thinking what they're thinking, it will create, number one, a communication. The listener will learn something, and the person who's questioned might learn something as well, because it'll force them to dig into their thought process and try and figure out why they think what they think. And I think in today's world, we have too many people who don't understand why they're thinking some of the things that they're thinking, why they have positioned themselves the way they have positioned themselves. And when they're pressed on details for it, it might cause them to move off the schneid.
You know, Sandy, global leaders can take a lesson from that as well. Thank you very much for making the show go. Thank you, Sandy. We'll see you on next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm taking a break on Friday and traveling to Cincinnati with the crew that I coach. So.
All right. Be safe. Thank you, Calvin, as always. Up next, Jane Medner on air, and Greg Bott. You've been tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.